Welcome, everyone. I have been looking forward to this interview for such a long time. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce my next guest, Karen Baines. Karen is a conscious wealth mentor and founder of the Conscious Wealth Code. For over a decade, Karen has worked with passionate, ambitious entrepreneurs by showing them how to master their own creational process, particularly around their business and finances. A priceless clarity is available in your whole life, allowing for breakthroughs and alignment with the work you are truly meant to be doing in this world. One of the main areas Karen works with is alignment. Alignment allows you to see what you need to do differently, what to change, and how to change it. Karen, welcome.
Thank you, my love. It's a pleasure to be here.
Karen, I would love to start off because I want to do a real deep dive into this idea of conscious wealth creation. But first, can you just talk a little bit about your path to becoming a conscious wealth mentor? What was your journey?
It was very organic. It was actually very aligned. When I look back on how the breadcrumbs that I ended up following to get where I was, it wasn't always plain sailing, don't get me wrong, but it was very organic. When I look back on it, it was always as if the universe was kind of helping me course correct and get me back on track. I mean, by the age of like my early 20s, essentially, I had 4 young children. My husband decided to start his own business, and I'd left school with no qualifications whatsoever. I wouldn't say I had an unhappy childhood, but I wasn't a happy child. And I think there's a big difference there. You know, I was better off than a lot of people. Mum worked really hard, single parent, and I was the eldest of 3, my younger brother and younger sister. But, you know, I was not a happy child. And from a very young age, from about the age of 11, which was, you know, it's quite unusual then. I was in therapy, I was in counselling, trying to, like, my mum trying to sort of help me become happier in myself. And the thing about that was that there just always seemed to be an emptiness. There was a void that I couldn't fill. And that sort of turned into a yearning with this innate understanding. I didn't know where it came from, but it was like an innate understanding that there was more, that it wasn't meant to be so hard. I wasn't meant to be so unhappy. So, as I said, by the time I was in my early 20s, I had my young family. My husband decided he was going to start his own business. And then we had our 5th child. So Connor was very young. And suddenly I was thrown into a world of, well, someone needs to do the tax return. In the UK, we have like taxes, like everyone else. You had a tax return needed doing, couldn't afford to hire anybody else. And I was introduced back then to who is now still a real dear friend of mine. And she was an accountant, and she kind of got me on track and showed me what I need to do to be able to, you know, tick all the boxes and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And I started working on Gary's taxes, and my family got a little bit older and they were not quite as needy of my time. And then one day my accountant turned around and said to me, you know, you've got a real flair for bookkeeping. Have you ever thought about studying, becoming a bookkeeper? And as I said, I left school with no qualifications. Maths was not my strong point, and I was a bit bemused, to be honest, but I followed that path. Nobody had ever said anything like that or believed in me like that before. And I had questions. There were questions, and I wanted them answered. So I decided I was going to do the bookkeeping. Qualified very quickly. Back then there was no software. It was all like, take your calculator, take your pen, take your ruler, and that's it. 6 hours in an exam room, and you know. So we did all that, and then I started my own bookkeeping business with the help of my accountant, who subcontracted me. And all the while, I was still going on this personal development journey, trying to fill the void that I still had. And that became more of a spiritual journey, if you like.
Mhm.
And I started to learn different healing modalities, because I thought, oh, there's just something wrong with me. I just need to fix myself. I just need to heal myself. The void comes because I'm broken. So I spent 2 years doing that to no avail. And then what started to happen is the two kind of versions of me, the two worlds collided, if you like. And I was sitting there and I would be doing someone's accounts and just would know why they weren't making any money. And then started having conversations with people and getting more clues. And the coach in me, I guess, started to sort of emerge. I'd always been told that I was a good listener, and people always felt better when they spoke to me. That was just a natural thing that people seemed to say to me. But at this point, it kind of emerged into this new version, and I did everything I could to keep the two things separate. Everything I could to keep separate the bookkeeping and the money stuff and the spiritual woo-woo energy stuff. And the universe wasn't having any of it. And I eventually just allowed the two to emerge, like to merge together, sorry. And then kind of the rest is history. I closed the bookkeeping business down because the earliest version, if you like, of my work sort of started to show itself as soon as I got out of the way and let it happen. And then it's just kind of gone on from there.
That's incredible. And I certainly believe, I'm sure you do too, things happen for a reason. There really aren't any accidents, and it's just the extent to which we pay attention to the clues and the little nudges we're getting. And you obviously did that. You know, there's so much in that I'd like to explore with you. But first, you know, the law of attraction, it's something we hear a lot. And Rhonda Burns, of course, was the one that put that phrase on the map with her work. I think there are some real misconceptions around how to use law of attraction. What does it mean for us, and particularly around money? So could you talk a little bit about, just before we get into more of the work you're doing, just what is law of attraction and how does it work for us? It's not just about thinking about what we want and then it'll magically appear. There's so much more to it.
No. Oh, there is so much more to it. And unfortunately, you're right. There are a lot of misconceptions on about the law of attraction. I think it's got, to start with, it's got an unfortunate name. The law of attraction in and of itself kind of sets it apart from us. It kind of gives this idea that you are separate from everything else and that you have to attract something to you. And you hear people all the time saying things like, oh, I attracted this, or I attracted that, or I manifested this and I manifested that. And it drives me mad, drives me absolutely mad, because actually the law of attraction is just the name of one of the laws that governs us. And as I said, this idea that we're in one place and we attract something else is just rubbish. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help people understand that particular law, because if you like, everything is energy and everything is connected, and everything that we want and desire is within us already to create. We don't have to attract anything. What we actually have to do is become a version of it, a vibrational match for it. What we want already exists. It just happens to be vibrating here, and the chances are we're vibrating here. We don't pull it down to us. We actually become it. So that's the first thing. And the thing about it is, as well, is that it really isn't magic. I mean, it's a magical thing, don't get me wrong. It's awe. It fills me with awe every single minute of every single day. But actually, what's really going on is our power, is the power that we have to create. And manifesting is really just something that we're designed to do. We're doing it every single minute of every single day. The law of attraction plays a big part in that. a huge part in that. But we are engaging with universal law every minute of every day. We're manifesting every minute of every day. With every single choice that we make, we are engaging with universal law, not just the law of attraction, but that is one of the laws that governs us. And with every single choice we make, we are broadcasting whether or not we're available to receive money. And those choices don't even need to be about money or about business at all. And that's what people don't realize. And essentially, again, I'm not a fan of the word manifesting, because it kind of, for me, it feels like it separates people that understand how to manifest from everybody else. Whereas my work essentially grounds it all in a very third dimensional practical way and says, hey, you're manifesting everything that's in your life right now. Everything that is in your life right now is a circumstance or a consequence that you have manifested. If you haven't manifested what you actually want, you're just doing it wrong. And we just got to figure out what that looks like so that you can realign to what you want. So yeah, I get a little bit on my soapbox about that, given the opportunity, because I do really feel that it keeps that kind of language, it keeps something that is so empowering and just so innate to us as human beings, it keeps us separate from it in so many ways. And that just really, really gets my goat.
Well, I think you've really touched on something important, and I've heard people say this exactly, that they're doing something wrong, or there's something wrong with them because other people seem to be able to manifest or attract what they want and they can't. So, how are they broken? In what way are they falling short? And instead, it's about the values we hold and how aligned we are energetically with the things that we want. So if a person is experiencing lack, and I know this is not a simple answer, but let's say, what's the starting point? How do you begin to work with your clients who come to you in a state of financial frustration, to start getting them more in line with the things that they want in their lives? Well,
there are literally steps that I take clients through, but for the sake of this conversation, you mentioned a very important word. You mentioned the word value. Now, when we're talking about our values, we're often not talking about values in terms of money. I mean, actually, there are a lot of really heart-centered entrepreneurs, like healers and those service-based coaches and those kinds of people who are, quite frankly, overgivers at heart. And I can say that about them because I'm the same, and as you probably are as well. And when we talk about values, we don't necessarily include money in there. But the thing about the word value, when I'm talking about it, is that money represents value. Money represents value. Now, money is what human beings designed so that we could exchange it for that which we value. Otherwise, we'd still be bartering. So we'd still be going to marketplaces with two sheep wanting to swap it for a cow. And then all of those things would take our time and our energy to take care of those cows, those chickens, though, like that livestock, get up in the morning and milk cows, raise plants. And not everybody is wired for that. I certainly am not. There are people in the world that are wired for that, but I certainly am not. And I would rather take some coin, which is what people decided that they would create coin. I'm frantically looking for some. There must be some somewhere in this house. There we go. There we go. Coin. take some coin and go to the market and actually exchange it for that which we value. Okay. And in doing so, it frees us up to actually do our gifts, to do what we would rather be doing with our time, to assign value with our time to our gifts. Because the thing about the universe and what's really interesting and what I've found and what eventually emerged as the code, the conscious wealth code, is the fact that when it comes to energy, the universe treats money and time in exactly the same way. So when you devalue your time, essentially by doing things that you don't really want to do, you're vibrating at a low frequency. You're doing what I call, in its simplest term, obligation. And because we're governed by the law of attraction, remember, and the law of attraction just simply states that like attracts like. Okay, I prefer to use the phrase, the universe says yes. My clients get that. So if you're doing obligation, the universe reads the frequency of obligation. It's not inclined or even interested to have a perception that you might not like what you're doing. And it's an obligation. It just reads the frequency of obligation, assumes that you want that's what you want, and brings you more. So when it comes to money, it was created by human beings so that we could exchange it for that which we value, right? And it represents value. We exchange it for the goods and the experiences that we want to have. And the thing about that is, if you're devaluing yourself in any way, whatever that looks like for you, if you're devaluing yourself, you can't be a vibrational match for money if money vibrates at a frequency of value. So when you're, I don't know, maybe you're a business owner and you're keeping your prices low because you might feel guilty, or you're scared that your clients won't be able to afford you, that's a classic entrepreneur's choice to devalue themselves. If you're just generally doing things and spending time doing things that are obligations, so anything that's have to, got to, should do, or must do, that heaviness, you're devaluing your time. You're sacrificing what you want for something or someone else that you don't really want to do. So when it comes to value, we need to think about it in terms of being a human being. We need to think about how the choices we make vibrate at a frequency of whether we are valuing ourselves, whether we are valuing our gifts, and whether we are valuing our time, because the universe just reads the frequency and says yes. Okay, so the thing that I would do, the first thing probably I would do if I have a client that comes to me, and it happens often, they're in overwhelm, but they're not making anywhere near the money they want to make. Sometimes they're not even making the money that they used to make, but they're doing all the same things. And they don't understand why they're not making money. But then it's a case of looking at, okay, well, where are you devaluing yourself, your gifts, your time? We need to look at boundaries, because if you're devaluing your experience by sacrificing your wants and needs for somebody else, for example, you're devaluing yourself. You're doing what I call choosing a less than experience. You're making someone else's wants or needs more important than your own. And alignment, the definition of is you do you. You must value you above everybody else. When you value you, you will be valued. So then you're a vibrational match for money. So it's about unpicking all those little threads that kind of get all tangled up into a big bird's nest. And by the time someone comes to me and they're not making money and they're working 50, 60 hours in a business that they used to love and now they really don't love at all anymore, we start to look at boundaries, we start to look at time. There are some very simple, straightforward things when it comes to being a vibrational match for money that can be done, that are directly they're choices that are directly connected to money of itself. But honestly, money is a happy byproduct of alignment. And if you're not making the money that you want, if money is the last tangible thing that drops in or doesn't drop in, you're going to get there's going to be all these other signals that have been showing themselves to you for months that you haven't been able to understand, or you didn't have the consciousness to be able to see or understand what the universe was telling you, what your soul was communicating to you. And I guess my gift is that I am able to see the most important ones very, very quickly. And we can start doing what I call moving the needle of alignment. So making changes, making those changes to our choices. Because here's the other thing as well. Sadly, many people, certainly in my industry, they think that they can just visualize 10K consistent monthly income and it's just going to land in the bank. And it absolutely is not. Visualizing, vision boarding, journaling, all of that stuff has absolutely got its place. I mean, I like my earliest version of my business started in the Akashic Records. As I said to you, I was convinced that I was broken. I was convinced that I needed healing and I needed fixing. And I stayed stuck in that place, trying to fix myself with all of those other things for 2.5 years, which is why I'm so passionate about getting my clients out of that, because that's not going to change anything. Happy thought thinking does not put money in the bank. So the universe reacts to and the universal language of money is energy. And the universe reacts to the energy underneath what you're doing. If you're not doing anything, it's got nothing to react to. So when I start to work with clients, I look at some very basic, fundamental, simple choices that we can do straight away around money and get what I call a big bang for your buck, sort of energetically. But money's never the problem. Money is never the problem. And it's about finding out what are the choices that you are making that are broadcasting, I'm not available for money. And then when you identify those, and it's very simple when you actually understand how it all works and you actually kind of, as I call it, ground it in logically. It's very simple. I'm not saying it's easy. It can require courage. Might need to put your big girls, big boys pants on, whatever, and to get on with some of it. But there's so many different ways to do what I call leverage the law, because you can't compartmentalize energy, Kip. It's just so fabulous and amazing that you can make new choices that move the needle of alignment outside of your business, outside of your money. You can start moving the needle of alignment and making new aligned choices with your relationships, even with your relationship with yourself. You can do all of those things and money will still land in the bank as a direct consequence of that, because the universe just doesn't compartmentalize. So you can get a lot of those alignment boxes ticked in what I call one vibrational shift, which takes about 3 to 5 months.
So what I'm hearing you say is the way we do one thing is probably the way we do everything. And so if we're not,
there's a lot of that happens. Yes.
So, and I also heard you, well, you said so much in there. I'm sure there'll be people listening to this interview who will be saying, putting myself first. A lot of women particularly struggle with that because they've had so much of
that, aren't we?
Yeah, and we're so used to looking after others, and it feels somehow wrong to put ourselves first. So that's a huge challenge for lots of women. So what can you say about that with respect to that, like, they're not mutually exclusive ideas of being looking after yourself first and manifesting the things that you want that will impact others. I mean, it all starts with ourselves. We have to start with ourselves, don't we?
Always. Yeah, we absolutely do. I mean, we've mentioned the law of attraction, but there are actually, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds, even thousands. There's probably an infinite number of universal laws, infinite. But here's the thing, in the work that I do, in the work that is the vehicle for my soul in this lifetime, I work with 3 universal laws. The law of attraction, which we've already talked about, which simply states the universe says yes. Okay. The law of circulation, and the law of circulation, I mean, you might want to stick with me here, but the law of circulation states this: you can't give what you don't have, you can't keep what you don't give, and you cannot sustain what you don't receive. So there's like this circle that happens, and that's really important. And also the law of polarity. Now, the law of polarity states that everything has its opposite. And as a human being, you are designed for a full human experience. So where there's light, there's dark. Where there's abundance, there's lack. You can't experience lack if all you ever know is abundance. If all you ever know is abundance, you don't know what lack is. Like, when it comes to the law of polarity, it's all about comparison. And human beings go through their entire lives without even realizing that pretty much every single second of every single millisecond of every day, we're comparing stuff. I like this, I don't like that. I want more of that, but I don't want more of that. She's got that and I like it, so I want it in my life. You're constantly comparing without even thinking about it, as a way to kind of organize your choices to get what you want, to create what you want. So you've got those 3 laws that happen, and obviously the one that you mentioned there that really kind of hones in on this is the law of circulation, because the first part of that is you cannot give what you don't have. And I use the analogy of chocolate with my clients all the time, because unfortunately, when it comes to, I mean, a lot of women, you're absolutely right, we're notorious for this, just as parents, just as mums, just like whatever. We're just really good at giving. Or you could say we're really bad at it, because actually it winds up depleting us. So we need to treat energy exactly as we treat chocolate. If I've got a bar of chocolate and I want to give you some, Kit, I can give you some chocolate. Yay, we've both got chocolate, right? If I don't have chocolate and I want to give you some chocolate, I can't give you any because I haven't got any to give. Now, energy is the same, but we seem to forget that if we don't have any energy, if we're depleted, if we're exhausted, if we're tired, we still give. We give what we don't have. And the law of circulation states that you cannot give what you don't have. The way to readdress that balance is you must give to yourself first. So you're giving to yourself first, you're filling up that cup, and then you're in a position to give of yourself, of your energy, of your gifts. But again, a lot of people come to me at the point where their default setting is overgive. They're healers, they're coaches, they're service providers. All they want to do is help other people. And they're overdrawn on their energetic account before they even realize it. And notice the language, they're overdrawn energetically. If you're overdrawn energetically, you're going to be overdrawn in your bank account. So it is all connected. It is all connected. So when it comes to starting that ball rolling, you're not going to change this stuff overnight. You're not going to change it overnight. And to actually try and change it overnight would be completely misaligned, because it would take you into overstretch, and that's not sustainable. but you can start to make some small steps in various ways, in various life areas, and leverage the law and begin to track your evidence so that you're understanding the signals that the universe is delivering to you every minute of every day. It's telling you, yep, you're on track, or no, you're not. And when you figure that out, which again is something that I teach my clients to do, when you figure that out, you're in a position to course correct at the earliest point. But as I say, if you've got patterns of behavior of overgiving, having wishy-washy boundaries, I mean, wishy-washy boundaries equals wishy-washy bank accounts. If you overgive, then it's going to take a little while for you to move that needle of alignment, but honestly, not as long as people think. It can look really overwhelming at first. It can, but honestly, it can happen really quickly. And when it comes to money, as I said, there are a few direct choices that you can make and get a big bang for your buck energetically by making new choices around money and finance and business that are totally under your control. Absolutely 100% under your control. You don't need anybody else's permission to do it. You might need 15 seconds of insane courage for some of them, but there are going to be things that you can do where you can just take responsibility, step back into your power, move that needle. And as soon as you do, the universe just says yes to a new choice and then drops something that supports that. And then you can choose that.
Can you give an example of one relatively quick way? I'd love for our audience to experience what you're talking about, even in small measure, so that they understand how it works. Is there anything that you could suggest?
I have the perfect thing. I have the perfect thing right now. And this is actually, every time I have a conversation like this with somebody, every time I meet a client for the first time, every time I do a masterclass, every time somebody asks me this question, this is exactly what I say, right? You're going to pay a bill. Simple, you're going to pay a bill, right? Now that bill might literally be a bill that needs paying, but there are lots of ways that you can pay a bill. So here's the thing, so stay with me here. The universe says yes, right? The universe says yes to everything you do energetically. Anywhere you're ignoring your money, what you're saying is, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with my money. We ignore what we don't want in our lives, right? If you've got someone coming towards you and you don't want to speak to them, you're going to dive into the nearest store so that you don't have to engage with their energy, right? That's just human nature. We ignore what we don't want in our lives. If you don't deal with your money, if you ignore your money, the universe reads that frequency and it says yes, and you will have no money to deal with. That is key. It's a key foundational teaching. So yes, you could go and pay a bill that you've been thinking about doing or you've been putting off for ages. The money's sitting there, but you're a bit worried, oh, if I pay that bill then and something more important comes, then I won't be able to pay it. Right there and then you're shutting down the law of circulation immediately anyway. But more importantly, you're waiting, you're withholding, you're holding back, you're not dealing with your money. Okay, so you can go and you can pay that bill, but there are other ways we ignore our money. How often are people looking at their bank accounts? Anyone that's watching, how on top of your actual finances are you? You know, if things are really tight, people sometimes don't even want to even open their mail or look at their bank accounts. You know, something as anywhere you've been thinking about doing something around money and you're just like, I'll do it when I've got time. You just put a pin in it for now, but you've been meaning to do it. So maybe talking to a bookkeeper or an accountant, maybe a financial advisor. Perhaps something as simple as transferring a credit card balance to a new balance, like a 0%. Like changing internet provider. you know, for like, so that you've got a better broadband, something like upgrading your telephone. You know for a fact that you've been out of contract for a long while and there are probably much better deals out there, and you're just like, yeah, I'll get to that, all these things are ways that you are actually ignoring your money. That great big pile of paperwork that's been sitting over there, that's absolutely full of bank statements and personal details that you don't want to put in the, you know, in the general garbage. You want to get it all shredded and do it all securely because you're terrified of identity theft. If that's got bank statements in it, if that's got stuff about money sitting there, you're ignoring your money. There's so many different ways that we ignore our money. And I have never, ever, ever met anybody who, when I've said that to them, we haven't been able to find somewhere that they've been ignoring their money. And that includes me. And one of the other things that you can do, if you're all over that, if you normally, when I start talking like this, people they just know, they just get that instant download. Oh, I know what I need to go and do. So if that's happened, when this is finished, go and get it done. Make a list and get them done over the next few days. But one place, I mean, obviously I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs and not everybody here is going to have their own business, but you can still use this. You've got to value you. You have to, like, when you spend your money, you're assigning value with your money to whatever energy is underneath that purchase. There's nothing more powerful than treating yourself, than actually consistently saying every month, before I pay anybody else or before I spend money on anything else, I'm gonna do me first. I'm gonna spend money on me first. There's nothing more powerful than assigning value with your money to yourself. It's the most powerful bill that you can pay. Yet how many people don't do that? How many people wait until the end of the week or the end of the month to see, oh, well, if there's anything left over, then maybe I'll go and get my nails done. You're nuts.
Yeah. Oh,
so that is one of the most powerful things anyone can do. And I'm not kidding. The stories that I get from people that have, like, I've done a masterclass and they've listened back to it a year later, and that's the first thing that they need to do, and they go and do it, and it's a game changer. I've had one person that I took that through, and I won't go into the details of the story, but essentially he made £27,000 in a week.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know.
And I think, again, we underscore this idea that the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And so if we're avoiding issues around money, we're probably avoiding issues in other areas. So these shifts that can occur, it will help address any money pinch points that we have, but we'll also probably discover that other areas start opening up and becoming freer, and we get more aligned, because it's about alignment. Absolutely. Again, everything comes back to
alignment. Yeah. That's the what I call leveraging the law. That's the leveraging the law part. Sometimes I'll get someone that comes to me for support or guidance, and they're in such a terrible situation with money. It's gotten so scary and contracted and overwhelming that actually there isn't anything that they can really do about money in that state. And I say to them, just put a pin in it. Just put a pin in it, focus on a different life area. You know, if you want financial freedom, if when you feel into having the kind of money that you want to create, if that feels like freedom to you, then choose freedom elsewhere. Don't worry about money. When you focus on it, you're actually getting in the way. When you're focused on the problem, you're not a vibrational match for the solution. You're just getting in the way of the universe doing its job. So when you shift focus from, say, freedom around money to instead freedom around time, and maybe you decide, well, do you know what? I'm going to take an extra hour in the morning to go for a nice walk before I start work, or I'm going to make sure that I leave my office an hour earlier at night, or instead of running round after the kids during my lunch break and getting everyone's lunches together and laundry money, I'm just going to say, do you know what, guys, you get and do it yourself, or let dad help you or nan help you or whatever, and I'm actually going to go and get a nail treatment or a hair treatment. Choose freedom for yourself in other ways, because the universe will read the frequency of freedom and say, oh, hey, yeah, Kip's up for some freedom this week, here you go, and in will drop some more ways you can choose freedom, and oftentimes with money, because with money you can assign value to freedom. With money you can hire people to do things that you don't really want to do. You can hire people to support you. You can get things off of your plate and give yourself more freedom. So it may well come in as money. Freedom and money on a vibrational frequency, they're like best buddies. They can't get enough of each other. Like they really are close.
It's such an empowering message. It's such an empowering thought to hold on to, and it's a beautiful segue to one more question I wanted to ask you. As a light worker, you and others like you are pouring out, you're pouring into others all the time, supporting, helping, mentoring. What do you do to make sure that you stay grounded and aligned when you're in contact with so many people who aren't? How do you keep yourself in that state?
Well, funnily enough, I mean, I really don't work very hard. One of the things that I teach my clients, one of the very first things that we do is I want to know, okay, well, how many hours do you want to work? Or do you want to work in that job? And we start to move the needle, as I call it, to kind of free things up. Now, and the other thing about alignment is that when you're in alignment, you're not really a vibrational match for people that kind of suck your energy. So I tend to only have people land in my orbit if they're either quite high vibrational already, or they're ready to pop their cork and they're going to be doing the work. So that doesn't really happen so much for me. And the other thing is, part of the conscious wealth code is teaching people what I call my time capsules. And that is a way to manage your time in an energetically aligned way, specifically around your business. But actually right now I've got a client who we are not focusing on the business. We're going to use the same system, the same structure, and the same kind of methodology, as it were, but we're actually going to look at her time outside of work, get that in order. And when you've got your time capsules in order, everything just flows. It just really does flow.
Karen, you are such a bright light, and I am so grateful that you have been able to come and share your wisdom, your insights with everyone. I think this interview will be a game changer for a whole lot of people.
I hope so. I do hope so.
I just feel that. I really feel that you're such a powerful creator and such a beautiful light. And you have a gift for everyone here as well. Could you talk about what that gift is?
Absolutely. I've sent you a link. There'll be a link, I assume, in the body of this email that goes out, this video that goes out, and you can go over and you can fill out a money alignment assessment with me. So you fill out the assessment and then you take a deep breath, put your big girl or boy pants on, press submit, and you'll send it over to me and I'll take a look at it. And those things, they light up like Christmas trees for me. I'll be able to see exactly what you can do just one or two simple, maybe big steps, maybe baby steps. I never know, but there's always going to be one or two steps that you can take immediately that are really going to help you move that needle of alignment and open your money channels. Just by doing the step of not ignoring your money, finding ways that you can start dealing with your money, that in and of itself can be a game changer for people. Honestly, it can. So please go and do that. But do come over. I can look at that assessment and know exactly what you can do personally. I can look at your personal circumstances and give you some pointers, and we can jump on a call. No obligation whatsoever, and do that. It'd be fabulous.
That is amazing and very powerful. I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. Karen, again, you are such a bright light. I love the work you're doing. I love the way you are working to transform the world. It's such important work. It's beautiful. Just hard for me to express how grateful I am to you, but thank you so much.
I am absolutely thrilled that you're so thrilled, and I've had a lovely time. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I mean, this is powerful what you're doing, and helping all these experts get their messages out there and kind of support people in ways that they may not have had access to before. It's really important.
Yeah, so powerful. Thank you again.
Thank you.